Hello, friends. It's good to be with you again today as we share together around another hymn story, our hymn of the week, and a passage of the week coming in a moment or two as well. It's a privilege for me, my name is Kerry, to be with you and to be here with Pastor Harry Heidebrecht and also our ever-present and wonderful video and sound tech, Bruce Avery. It's a delight to work together as a team. Well, we are in the season of Lent, and our theme that Pastor Harry has chosen for this series of the hymns of the week is our journey to the cross. A passage that is central in this journey comes from Mark chapter 8, and I'd like to read it to you today. Jesus and his disciples went on to the villages around Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked them, "Who do people say I am?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Messiah." Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. He then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. "You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels." Pastor Harry.
Our hymn of the week is "Lead Me to Calvary." The author is Jenny Evelyn Hussy, composer William J. Kirkpatrick. As we embark on our journey toward the cross via hymns, we soon become aware of two distinct visions of the cross. We first see its ugliness. As Brennan Manning has described it, the cross is an ugly fact in our history, and we must resist the temptation to soften its meaning. It was a barbarous instrument of torture and death, designed to instill fear in the hearts of both victims and observers. When Jesus began to speak plainly concerning his suffering and death, it triggered fear, causing Peter to protest, and it also kept him from taking up his cross. There is the other view that reveals God's great love for us. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. It's his perfect love that drives fear away and draws us closer to Jesus. It's love that gives us courage and strength to take up our cross and to follow him. As John wrote, "If I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all men to myself." And he said that knowing by which death he would die. In our hymn of the week, we see both visions of the cross. The terribleness of the cross manifests the great love for us in Jesus. Our hymn of the week, "Lead Me to Calvary," was written by Jenny Evelyn Hussy. She was born into a Quaker family February 8th, 1879, in Henniker, New Hampshire. She began writing poetry at the early age of 8, and by the time she was 13, some of her poems had been published. Although she published 150 hymns in her lifetime, Lead Me to Calvary is the only one familiar to us today. Her life was solitary and difficult. She spent her early years caring for a sister who was an invalid due to a crippling form of arthritis. In her middle years, she too suffered from arthritis, which seriously curtailed her activities. The hymn, Lead Me to Calvary, was written during Passion Week in 1921 at the request of friends. She, however, drew her inspiration from Luke 9:23. If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. She wrote the hymn during a time of intense personal struggle. In her struggle, she arrived at the point where she prayed, "Please, Lord, make me willing to bear my cross daily." She began by writing the 4th verse of the hymn first. May I be willing, Lord, to bear daily my cross for thee, even thy cup of grief to share. Thou hast borne all for me. She then added the other 3 verses, beginning on a triumphant note of surrender. King of my life, I crown thee now. Thine shall the glory be, lest I forget thy thorn-crowned brow. Lead me to Calvary. Surrender always presupposes a battle. Surrender is our victory over fear and ushers us into a life of love and liberty. In the latter part of her life, she had the wish to be baptized. Since Quakers did not practice baptism, she approached a Baptist pastor for baptism. She explained, "I've spent much of my life hidden away in the country, and I'd like to have the opportunity before God takes me home to tell everybody I love Jesus." Her love for Jesus emboldened her to take up her cross daily and follow him. It's not that we must try harder, but rather that we must love Jesus more. Give special attention to the refrain, "Lest I forget Gethsemane." Gethsemane was the place of struggle and surrender. "Lest I forget thine agony." The cross was the place of suffering and death. "Lest I forget thy love for me." The cross also revealed God's great love for me. Lead Me to Calvary. The music was specifically composed for the hymn by William Kirkpatrick, a well-known composer of hymns. Listen to the hymn as sung by Ray Harris, accompanied by Ruth Thiessen at the piano. Lead Me to Calvary by Jenny Evelyn Hussy, our hymn of the week.
King of my life, I crown thee now. Thine shall the glory be, lest I forget thy thorn-crowned brow. Lead me Angels in robe of light arrayed guarded thee whilst thou slept. Let me, like Mary, through the gloom, come with a gift to thee. Show to me now the empty tomb. Lead me to Calvary. May I be willing, Lord, to bear daily my cross for thee, even thy cup of grief to share. Thou hast borne all for me. Lest I forget Gethsemane, lest I